Today, we're simulating Shane Van Gisbergen's first season in the NASCAR Cup Series here. Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video as we try to see what Shane Van Gisbergen can do in a full season of Cup Series competition. In real life, he is set to make a full-time effort in the Xfinity Series. However, we're going to be simulating his first season in the NASCAR Cup Series, which he is aiming to go full-time Cup Series racing starting in 2025. However, we've made him into the move into the Cup Series for 2024, and of course things kick off with the Daytona 500. Anybody can win at this style of racetrack, including SVG Shane Van Gisbergen himself. However, that wasn't the case. Brad Keselowski picked up the victory as SVG would pick up P11 in the season opener. I really think the big question is, can SVG make the playoffs in his rookie season? And we would head on into race number 2 from Auto Club, of course, a track that's unfortunately no longer on the real-life schedule. They'll be instead headed to Atlanta Motor Speedway for this race slot. It's going to be back-to-back plate-style races, but for the purposes of this video, we remain with Auto Club. Chase Elliott, right off the bat, leading the way from pole position early on in this race, but by the end of the race, it would be William Byron, his teammate, picking up the victory as SVG. Another solid top 15 effort here, P12 from the 2-mile oval. So the first 2 races of his first full-time campaign end up going pretty well, but could he continue that consistency going into, well, race number 3 on the season, which takes place in Las Vegas? Chase Elliott picked up the victory, while SVG again P12, so he's not quite getting a top 10 yet, but he's had a very consistent start to the season. Race number 4 to follow in this West Coast swing from Phoenix Raceway. Denny Hamlin with the victory. However, SVG finds some struggles on a shorter style track, and he ends up in 23rd place. So short tracks might be his weakness in NASCAR. Now, as we roll through into the second plate style race of the season, being Atlanta Motor Speedway, and so many of these plate style tracks now on the NASCAR calendar, 6 to be exact, 2 apiece at Daytona, Talladega, as well as now Atlanta with the brand new reconfiguration and repave. A couple seasons with this track, under the Cup Series belt, and they have put on really great races, to be completely honest, especially when it seems to be under the lights. So allowing 2 more opportunities for just about anybody to pick up a victory in Atlanta. And at the end of this race, it was Ty Gibbs who actually picked up his first win, while SVG again P13. So I mean, he's been in 11th, the 12th, 13th, as well as that poor finish. But then we had the first road race of the season coming up, but SVG going into that 13th in the standings. So he's in the playoffs going into the first road course race, and now we look at, of course, this being his first likely real opportunity to go to victory lane. Right now, it's his teammate Ross Chastain who started from pole position and led the way down through turn number 1. Of course, SVG has a Cup Series win already under his belt. That was at the Chicago Street Course in just his very first attempt. And then his second race in his Cup Series career was at the Indianapolis Road Course, where he had another impressive top 10 run there as well. But at the end of Mid-Ohio, it was Christopher Bell who won, but SVG picks up his first top 10 and top 5 P4 career best for this first full-time season, at least here in the Cup Series. He would back that up with Kyle Larson winning in Richmond, and unfortunately another short track meant some more struggles for Shane Van Gisbergen here as we look way down the order to find him 35th place. Not looking good at Richmond. We would back that up with Reddick winning from Bristol. Another short track meant more struggles again for SVG, and we have to scroll all the way down the order again outside the top 30, 31st for the number 91 Trackhouse driver. We roll into the end of what I call the short track swing, and that's at Martinsville, one of the most challenging short tracks and one of the more challenging ovals, especially for rookies in the Cup Series. We see them struggle quite often. So how would SVG do, in his first start at Martinsville? Well, Kyle Larson picked up another win on the season, while you can see SVG continues to struggle, but not as bad as I expected. Actually, a relatively solid 21st place effort actually in Martinsville, but after his struggles he found himself 18 points below the cut line going into Talladega. Larson at the top of the board, the first multi-time winner this season. Talladega, we had our first surprise winner in Noah Gragson, but SVG backs up his struggles with a 10th place effort in the Geico 500. But now we have a surprise winner in the playoffs. Ty Gibbs got his first win of his Cup Series career following in the next week at Dover, while SVG ends up P14. Dover, a very challenging track, so an impressive run from the Cup Series rookie there, as this would then take us into back to the mile and a half from Kansas Speedway in the following week under the lights Saturday night. Chase Elliott started on pole position. Elliott one win on the season at this point, as he was looking to get his first multiple win, or his second win of the season, I should say, here under his belt. But at the end, it was Kyle Larson actually getting win number 3 of the season, while SVG with P11. So another solid night here as he continues to try and rebuild after his struggles in the short track swing. So after Kansas, SVG 14 points below the cut line going into what's really in reality the most difficult oval on earth, and that is Darlington for the Southern 500. Now, surely a race that is going to challenge every single driver on this circuit, but now Shane Van Gisbergen, of course, for sure, his first ever time in Darlington. Driver that knows how to wheel a car around a racetrack. Well, Chase Elliott wins his second race, but SVG an impressive 13th place effort there, just in front of his teammate of Daniel Suarez in the 99 car. The Coke 600 following week, 9th place for SVG, as this was now well past the halfway point, or just past the halfway point of the regular season. Eric Almirola would win a week later at Gateway, to everyone's surprise. SVG ends up P17, so now 2 surprise winners that have locked themselves into the playoffs. Following week, another one. Herbst wins in Sonoma, while SVG at the road course gets P6. Not exactly what he was looking for. Now we've had 3 surprise winners in the playoffs that could really hurt SVG's chances of making the playoffs. Right now he is 2 points below the cut line. Alex Bowman out by 3 as they went into Kentucky, where Chris Buescher would win his first race of the season, and SVG a little bit worse than usual at the mile and a half, P18. Not what he was looking for, as he's sandwiched between Alex Bowman and Alex Bowman, as you see the rest of the order there. That would take us in to Road America. SVG looking for another bounce back here after a solid top 10, at least in Sonoma, but just inside the top 20 at the mile and a half from Kentucky. Road America, obviously a very real opportunity for him to bounce back again and get a very competitive top 10 finish. He has never finished outside of the top 10 so far, from real life to the races that we're simulating here on a road course anyways, and he would end up P4, tying his season best, as Chase Elliott actually picks up the victory, as we focus in with less than 10 races to go in the regular season. Atlanta, again, Larson picked up the win, as SVG would end up in 19th place now going into race number 20, where Chris Buescher would win from New Hampshire, and Shane Van Gisbergen ends up in 14th place, as we are on that stretch to the end of this regular season. He ends up P12 in Pocono after a surprise win again from Riley Herbst, who's now a 2-time winner somehow. So 3 drivers in the playoffs that have won their way in and are not in on points. Larson wins again in Richmond for race 22, and of course short tracks mean more struggles for SVG. 29th, not setting him up well for these closing races of the regular season, and he is now 18 points below the cut line within these final few races, which include 2 road courses plus Daytona following Michigan. While Michigan, William Byron picked up the victory, while SVG ends up P14. So when things are not going wrong, he seems to be in that 10th to 15th place area. But now after Michigan, 21 points below the cut line. However, we have 2 back-to-back road course efforts for Shane Van Gisbergen to get himself back into the fight for this playoff battle now, and he just needs to beat Ryan Blaney as well as Alex Bowman. Those are the 2 drivers he's focused on beating. Well, William Byron picked up another win, while SVG ends up P6, and he beats the drivers he needs to beat going into the final 2 races of the regular season. However, he's still 9 points below the cut line going in to Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen was won by Martin Truex Jr. SVG ends up P7, beating again the cars that he needs to beat. So going into the regular season finale, Shane Van Gisbergen out by 1 single point to Alex Bowman, Blaney out by 2. So it's going to come right down to the wire here as we get underway from this regular season finale from the Daytona International Speedway. SVG had a top 15 effort earlier in the season, but tonight under the lights it was Ty Gibbs winning, and SVG is not going to make the playoffs because he gets beat by Blaney, and Bowman ends up P16. So in his rookie campaign he misses the playoffs there. Unfortunate. Blaney, the last driver in his seat, beats Alex Bowman in as well. So SVG would have made the playoffs if we didn't have the 3 surprise winners. So unfortunately he would have made it on points, but because he didn't win and 3 surprise winners did, he misses. In his first regular season, 2 top 5s, 7 top 10s, no laps led, but an average finish of a 14.7. So can SVG pick up a win in the playoffs as a non-playoff driver? Well, he ends up P12 in the playoff opener from Darlington again, as Elliott picked up the win to lock himself into the next round. Following race, Kansas, SVG ends up P10, a solid effort right there. Going into race number 3 at Bristol, short track struggles, 33rd for SVG. Just hasn't been able to figure out the short tracks. Chris Buescher picks up the win, and eliminated was Ryan Blaney, Almirola, Herbst, and Gregson in that first round. Ryan Preece surprised everybody with a win in Texas, while SVG ends up P17. Going into Talladega, this is where, of course, anybody can win once again, and Trackhouse wins their first race of the season. Daniel Suarez picks up the win as SVG ends up P12. It took Trackhouse all the way to race 31 to pull that off, and you can see that puts Suarez into the round of 8 with that victory. Going into the eliminator race for the round of 8, potentially Shane Van Gisbergen's last opportunity to get a win this season. It's the last road course of the season now, as we start from the back of the field. Austin Cindric led the field to the green flag here through this first and opening couple of corners. Could SVG work his way through traffic in a car that's very hard to do that on road courses? But at the end of the race, it wasn't either that one. It was Martin Truex Jr. picking up the win, while Shane Van Gisbergen ended up P7. Eliminated was Bell, Hamlin, Keselowski, and Reddick. Bell loses on a tiebreaker. The next week, he wins in Las Vegas. That would have put him in the Final Four. Absolute heartbreak there. SVG, a bit of a rough day, down in P18, as Suarez, who made this round, down in 19th. Harrison Burton would win in Miami, while SVG ends up P10, so a solid top 10 run going into the penultimate race of the season, where Larson, Elliott, Buescher, and Gibbs are currently the Final Four, but Byron only 1 point out of that Final Four behind Ty Gibbs. SVG, short track struggles, some of his worst so far. Ends up 38th as Buescher wins his way into the Final Four and would go head-to-head with Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and William Byron for the championship here. So 300 cars, 1 RFK machine going into this final race of Shane Van Gisbergen's rookie season. It's not been a bad rookie season for SVG. He's had his ups and downs. The short tracks really, hurt him this season. And of course, we end the season on what is considered a short track. So as you could expect, more continuous struggles in the final 2 races specifically of the season, unfortunately, as Elliott would win and win the championship here from Phoenix Raceway, and Shane Van Gisbergen would end up outside the top 30, down in 34th place. That's Shane Van Gisbergen's first Cup Series season simulated. How do you think it'll go, as we expect to see him full-time, of course, in 2025 in Cup Series, but for sure, let me know what you think his first Xfinity Series campaign will look like, as he ends up 19th overall in the standings. That is SVG's first season simulated. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.